AI in Action is brought to you by Alldus International, covering your business's staffing, consulting, and networking needs. Our host brings you the leading minds in AI, sharing their story, their success, and their advice. Focusing on fast-tracking you to the top, AI in Action cuts through the hype to help you kickstart your data science career. To listen to the latest AI in Action podcast, head over to www.alldus.com/podcast or subscribe via iTunes, Stitcher, or Google Podcasts.
You're listening to AI in Action. I'm your host, JP Valentine. Our guest today is Erin Gustafson. Erin is the lead data scientist at Duolingo. Erin, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So Erin, let's start with a background of yourself. Can you give a brief overview of your journey in data, where you got started, and sort of walk us through your journey taking us up to today as the lead data scientist for Duolingo?
As you said, I'm at Duolingo, which is a language learning platform with a mission to develop the best education in the world and make it universally available. I've been at Duolingo for almost 4 years, and I was hired as the first data scientist back then in 2017, at a point when the company was still under 100 employees. And we are getting close to 400 at this point. So I've seen the company grow a lot in this last 4 years, and it's been an amazing experience to see that growth and to help shape really what data science looks like at Duolingo. My journey into data science is maybe a fairly common one. So I was in a PhD program studying linguistics. And about halfway through my program, I was pretty sure that academia was not the right path for me. And so I had to kind of figure out what I was going to do after I finished my PhD, if not sort of pursue that academic path. So like I said, I was in a linguistics program and with a heavy emphasis on quantitative research methods. So my day-to-day for my research involved designing experiments to elicit some sort of language behavior. So it could be like showing my participants a picture and asking them to like say the name of the picture, or hooking them up to a machine that tracks their eye movements as they listen to speech. And then analyzing the data from these experiments was also a big part of my day-to-day. And that required a lot of data munging and statistics chops. So as I was kind of thinking about like what was going to be next once I finished my PhD, I took stock of what I really loved about the work that I was doing for my program. And it was really the experimentation and the data analysis and statistics that I loved. And luckily at that time, data science was starting to emerge as a way for people like me who had these sort of quantitative skills and research skills to kind of apply all of that in an industry setting. So I was super lucky that I had a supportive advisor who was on board with this and encouraged me to take some additional coursework in machine learning and statistics. And he also pushed me to pursue internship opportunities to make myself more marketable on the industry job market. And this is something I would call out and recommend to anybody who's in a PhD program or getting a master's degree that's thinking about breaking into data science. Getting some work experience outside of your research will really set you apart on the job market. And this is true as somebody who hires data scientists at Duolingo. I look for this and look for that ability to transfer those research skills to another domain. So that's sort of my PhD and how I decided what I was going to do next. And once I wrapped my PhD, I did a brief postdoc at the Northwestern Medical School, where I had also previously interned. And there I was working on machine learning and natural language processing applied to data from the electronic health record. So I was, for example, like building a model to predict which patients had a particular disease based on all of the structured and unstructured data that was in the electronic health record. So this was a great opportunity to get experience working with unstructured data and learning how to navigate a data warehouse, which I had never done in my PhD, but it turns out it's a really important part of the day-to-day for a data scientist. So that was invaluable experience.
I appreciate the overview. It's really helpful to understand how your interest in a particular field developed over time, but then as the industry evolved, you found yourself landing in a space where it aligned well with your previous educational background, but also then your overall interests. So looking at your current company, Duolingo, for anyone not familiar with the business, can you explain at a high level what it is Duolingo does, and then give us some insight into your role as the lead data scientist?
So we are a language learning platform. We have apps for Apple, Android devices, and a website that allow you to learn I should know the number off the top of my head, but it's something like 90 different courses for you to learn a language for free. So that's a big part of our mission and sort of what we're trying to accomplish is developing really stellar education and making it available to anybody. So that's what we do. And where data science fits into that is kind of all over the company and all over the business. So data science at Duolingo is part of the product organization. And so a lot of our work really has a product focus. And one way that I think about the work that we do as well is that a lot of the projects that we take on are sort of like user research. So as a complement to a qualitative user researcher that's talking to our learners and learning about their experiences, we look to the data to try to uncover patterns that are useful for us from a product development perspective and also from a business perspective. We also, do a lot of partnership with some of our business functions like finance and marketing to work on forecasts and make sure that we have really great information kind of on a business level so that we're making good decisions there. And we also do some collaboration with the broader AI organization at Duolingo, which is actually part of engineering, and do some work with them on R&D for machine learning systems that we have as part of our product as well.
Thank you for that. Really helpful to understand the business scope as a whole. So you've given some insight there into just how complex and wide-reaching the data focus is behind Duolingo. So can you help us then understand your role, lead data scientist, what you find yourself working on project by project and the broader data science team?
Because I was the first data scientist at the company and I've been around for a while, I've been really lucky that I've gotten experience kind of across the company. And so I've thought about problems in user engagement, growth, monetization, learning. So done a lot of thinking about all those different aspects of our product. And these days I'm more in a leadership role. So at the second half of last year, I transitioned over into the area of the company that focuses on learning. And I'm one of the co-leads for our learning assessments team. And we're a little bit different than sort of the other teams that I've been a part of in the past because we're really research focused. And so the work that we do is sort of running large scale studies to help demonstrate the efficacy of Duolingo as a good way to learn a language. And we also do a lot of analyses using our internal assessment data and our internal log data as well to uncover insights that can be used to improve our content and like the curriculum that we show to our learners and also improve our product as well. So these days I do have my hands on the data a little bit still, but I'm doing a lot of sort of mentoring and management of our more junior data scientists to help them kind of do the best work they possibly can do.
Excellent. So staying on that point of then mentoring the next wave of junior data scientists and data engineers, obviously that's a topic that we want to learn more about because there's so many new people coming in and the challenges making that transition from academia to industry are well publicized. What have you learned from your own journey from academia to industry that you're now sharing with junior incoming data scientists and data engineers to help mentor them to be successful?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the first thing that came to mind was something that I learned with my first project at Duolingo when I first joined, and that's sort of this saying of not letting perfect be the enemy of good, where we're all very like smart, driven, want to do like the best possible work that we can do. And especially for people coming out of that academic context, like when you're doing your research, you don't publish it until it is as perfect as you can possibly get it. And if that means it takes you years to get something out, that's just the way that it is. In industry, it doesn't work that way. And in fact, that's bad for business. And so early on, I had to kind of shift my mentality and be okay with an MVP. And in this case, like a minimum viable analysis, and being okay with saying like, hey, if I spent a year on this is what I think I could do. But you know what, if I spent a couple of months on it, I think we can get like 80% of the way there. And then we can iterate if it looks like that this idea has legs. So that mentality was hard for me, especially as coming out of that academic environment and really wanting to, especially with my first project, like show, like, look at what I can do, but had to learn kind of the hard way that sometimes it's okay to stop earlier than you'd like and deliver as many insights as you can and then come back to it later. And this is something that I work with the people that I manage on as well, to be okay with like good enough work. And it's hard for everybody to kind of let go of that, but I think it's really important, especially as a small data science team. So we've grown a ton since I joined, but we're still only 6 people. And we have a ton of work to do. And so we have to be really careful about how we use our time. And that often means cutting corners in a smart way and prioritizing ruthlessly. It's one of our operating principles to make sure that we're, getting as much done as we possibly can, still at high quality though.
Erin, you're absolutely right. And I think that the main standout point there that you made was the concept of finished is better than perfect, because data scientists, data engineers, you've got to be delivering ROI and presenting something that's finished. Going back then to the switch in your role, because I know it ties into an area that you're passionate about and that you're motivated by the impact. Can you speak to the impact of educational data and how that's going to sort of impact the shift in overall education? So educational data mining and things that you're noticing with the change in technology.
Yeah, it's a great question. This is something that I have been spending a lot of time thinking about as I've moved over to the learning area of the company. And I think that COVID-19 has really kind of shined a light on the importance and potential opportunity for ed tech. And we definitely felt that as an ed tech company ourselves. So something that I am thinking a lot about is how we can make use of the incredible amount of learning data that we collect on our platform. So just to give you a sense of the scale, our learners complete something like 500 million language learning exercises every single day. So that is a lot of data for us to make use of in order to build like the best learning product we possibly can. So that volume of data has been really useful for us kind of from a product perspective, because it means that we are able to run a lot of A/B tests to iteratively improve our product. And our co-founders really have valued that as a tactic to make really good data-informed decisions. And again, one of our operating principles is test everything. And we really, really mean that. So we run something like over 100 experiments at any given moment. So that's sort of one piece of it. The other piece is that the volume of data that we have access to really means that AI can be a key part of our company strategy. And the way that we tend to think about it is that AI allows us to scale high quality education and offer it for free. And that part of our mission is really important to us. And so we kind of think of AI as a potential like equalizer, where we can provide personalized education that you might otherwise only get from an expensive one-on-one tutor. And with that 500 odd million exercise per day data set, we can train really robust personalization systems that provide that education. So that's one piece as well. I think the other piece for me, and we're still developing our muscle here, is the data mining side. So rather than building systems, like AI-based systems for our product, we do a lot of offline analysis as well, kind of mining all of this data for insight that we can use for improving the product. This educational data mining community as well has been around for quite a while and is really, I think, picking up and maturing, and the community is growing, I think, in the wake of ed tech really coming to life, especially in this last year or so.
So, and then to tack onto that, you've already given us some great insight into the evolution of this space, but from the inside, you can probably see the continuous wave of development and advancement in this type of educational technology. What are you most excited about the future of this space, given the impact that it can have?
I think the thing that I'll link back to and maybe double click on a little bit is personalization. So this is one of the key ways that we use AI in our product right now. And to give you a couple of examples, we use it for making sure that learners are placed into the appropriate part of their Duolingo course. So if you're somebody that studied French for a couple of years in college, we don't want to start you at the beginning. We want to make sure that we zoom you through to a part of the course that you would benefit the most from. We have a student model that we call Bird Brain that we're using to personalize lesson content right now. So this is in production, and I think it's personalizing something like 40% of the lessons that we show to our learners. And that's an area where we're continuing to do R&D pretty actively and benefiting from the state-of-the-art research that's happening in educational data mining. And in particular, for methods like, for example, knowledge tracing. So knowledge tracing is a method that lets you model the knowledge or mastery of learning material that students have. And so we've been experimenting with these sorts of approaches so that we can, build a better and better student model where for every single learner on our platform, we have some estimate of what we think they know so that we can customize the learning experience and make it as fun and as effective and engaging as possible.
Excellent. Final question from me, Erin. Just given you've been part of the growth at Duolingo, you mentioned you've seen it grow from 100 staff to now 400. You've been personally involved in supporting the growth of the data science group. If you were speaking to people who had a curiosity or an interest in this space and you were giving them some advice on why it's a great place to hone your data science skills and how to go about getting into a company like Duolingo, what pieces of advice could you share that would help maybe somebody who might interview with you guys in the future?
So I have a couple of things I could say here. One is, if you're in school, consider taking classes that may not seem non-standard. So I think the common thing that I see these days is, there are lots of new like data science programs and data science master's degrees and stuff like that. And I think you can learn a lot from those programs, but I would also encourage people to think about like taking cognitive science or psychology classes or sciences that are social science and human focused and still have a quantitative aspect to it. So you learn statistics and you learn all of the quantitative rigor, but sort of rooted in an application that is often going to be really useful when you're in industry, because a lot of businesses, the work that you're doing is trying to understand human behavior in some way. And so I personally feel like I've benefited a lot from my cognitive science training and exposure to psychology. So that's sort of one maybe sort of surprising suggestion that I would make to people. I also would say to focus on statistics. I see a lot of candidates that have a really robust training in machine learning, but not necessarily in like inferential statistics. And there's a lot of value in that in the industry setting. So I'd recommend that as well. For folks that are more like self-studying or just want to supplement, there's a lot of great content out there. I try to spend some time every day reading articles on Medium. It's a great way to stay up to date with some of the like bleeding edge research, but more importantly, I think like the applications that you actually see in industry. And in particular, I would recommend focusing on articles that are written by people at like the top tier tech companies and are practitioners at those companies. So like Airbnb and Netflix and Facebook, they all have really great content for free online. And that's a great way to get exposure to the types of problems that people are working on so that you're sort of well versed in that when you're on the job market. And then maybe the last thing I'd say is learn SQL. It's such an important part of the day-to-day for a data scientist, and you can never have too much practice with navigating databases.
Couldn't agree more on all of that. Some great pieces of advice there. So great way to finish the interview. Erin, we really appreciate you coming on talking to us today about Duolingo. Fascinating work, very interesting space, and I think it's only just getting started in terms of what the capabilities can be. Great insight into how to develop skills for junior data scientists, really impactful. So we appreciate you speaking to us and thank you again.
Thanks so much.
AI in Action is brought to you by Alldus International, covering your business's staffing, consulting, and networking needs. Alldus offer an exec search program. Alldus can help you discover how data science and AI can transform your company. With our unrivaled network of C-suite executives and senior AI professionals, we offer retained search services across the US and Europe. Get the Alldus advantage. Become a member of the Alldus community and enjoy some of the following: AI meetups. Once a month, our community gathers to listen to some of the leading experts in the world of data science and AI. Our speakers come from all over the world, including Dublin, Boston, and Frankfurt. We also have our AI mentors. Our experts will provide mentoring to Alldus members. And don't forget our AI in Action podcast. Each week we have guests from all over the world talking us through their education, career, and more. Become an Alldus member and get the Alldus advantage. For more information and to sign up for our newsletter, log on to www.alldus.com. That's www.alldus.com. Alldus International, empowering through AI.